Stay present. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to myself. I need to constantly remind myself because of the program we live in. We live in such an oppressive program that I have to make 3 or 4 videos a day to remind myself, because who else is going to do it if I don't do it? And not only am I reminding myself, I'm reminding you, because I know how oppressive this program we live in is. We need to constantly remind ourselves. That's why I make videos about the same thing over and over. Removing the aggravators, facilitating a state of peace, reconstituting the mind. Because we need to be constantly reminded. Stay present. Presence and purification. Presence and purification. Stay present. We need to constantly be reminded. Eat fruits and vegetables, because the world we are living is so oppressive. If I don't remind myself, who is going to do it? I need to remind myself. I'm talking to myself. All these videos I make about removing the aggravators and facilitating a state of peace, I'm talking to myself. I need to tell myself to do this constantly, because we're fighting a very strong program, the pull of the world, that's called spiritual repetition. That's why we got to repeat things like mantras all the time. We got to repeat these things. Got to repeat, I am healthy, I am wealthy, I am wise, whatever you say. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. We have to constantly repeat these things because you're fighting the program. And if we don't do it, if I don't do it, who else is going to do it? Who else is going to remind me? I have to grab my own head and shake. That's why I get close to the camera and say, empty your mind. Remove the aggravators. We get caught in the game of control. We think we have control. There is no control. Control is an illusion that keeps us trapped in the game. We have to give it all up. I have to keep constantly reminding myself to give it all up. You want to dance with the aggravators? Well, you're going to get caught in your ego, and you're going to think you have control, and you're going to still be in some cycles of suffering. You have to give it all up. What is forgiveness? Giving up control. Unconditional love, giving up control. We don't have any control over anything. We can only act based off of our chemistry, our conditioning, and our level of understanding. Ever. We can only ever make one decision. So how can we be sinners? How can we have shame or guilt or regret? How? We could only ever make one decision. You're going to be mad at yourself for acting the only way we could ever act based off our programming. And if we want to change this programming, we got to drill it into our heads to stay present, to give it all up. You have to give it all up. You have to remove the aggravators. If you're still getting caught in the game and caught in the ego, like me, always still getting caught in the ego, wait, what, you think you have control? Too many aggravators. You got to remove the things that are causing the cycles of thought to keep going. Anything that's causing the thought to keep going. Food, acidic foods, acidic mediums coming in externally, any kind of chaos, any kind of stimulation, social media especially. If you're getting caught on social media, it's going to aggravate your mind. It's going to spark your ego. You're going to think you're somebody doing something. You're going to think you have control. And guess what? You're caught in the game. And you're going to be held in lower perspectives. And you're going to have a tough time. You have to let it all go. We have to let go all thoughts of control. There is no control. Control is an illusion. There's only the cosmic unfolding. That's what stand in the center of the circle means. I keep telling, that's why I make so many videos about standing in the center of the circle. You are the observer. Stand in the center of the circle and watch all things take their course. What does that mean? Give up all your attachments. You have no control. You have no control. Who am I talking to? I'm talking to myself. You have no control. You are nature running off. You are simply just your programming running off. You have to give it all up. You have to remove the aggravators, or else your ego is going to keep going. If we keep allowing the aggravators to stimulate us and aggravate us and keep our cycles of thought keeps going, the ego's going to keep going, and we're still going to get caught in the game. We're going to be trapped. And what's the highest level of ourselves? The present moment. That's how the divine works through us. Complete surrender is one of the highest devotions to God. We're letting God take control because there is no control. Only God's in control. We're simply the observer. We are simply God experiencing itself, but we get caught in our ego because this world breeds egomaniacs, and we think we know. We think we're somebody doing something. We think we have control. What is expectations? The ego vying for control. There is no control. We can only ever do one thing, and that's what we do. Whatever happens is going to happen because it happens. How can there be sin when you could literally only do one thing, and that's what you did? You couldn't have made any other decision. What choice? What choice? You could only ever do one thing. We're karma running off. We're nature running off. That's all we are. There is no control. Give it all up. Empty your mind. Reconstitute your mind. Why do I have to say this over and over? Because I need to hear it. And I know all of you watching this right now also need to hear it constantly. Give it all up. Empty your mind. The answers we seek are not in seeking. The answers we want are in surrender. We have to literally give it all to God. Everything, all of our attachments. You have to give up all attachments. Do your work and step back. Don't have an expectation of anything. No expectations. Because that supposes control. Sin supposes control. There is no control. How can there be control when we can only ever make one decision? And that's the decision we made, because that's the decision we made based off our chemistry, our conditioning, our level of understanding. That's the only decision we could ever make. We were never going to make another decision because that's the decision we made. So we don't need to feel shame and regret and guilt. What? What do you feel? Accountability. Accountability is a lower perspective thing. Well, you need accountability. You need accountability, yeah, in very low levels. Accountability, you're acting the only way you could ever act. It's a program. Your nature running off. What are you holding yourself accountable for? On one level you say, okay, we need accountability in the 3D world, whatever you want to call it, the illusion. In the illusion world, you need accountability, sure. When everybody thinks they have control and and their ego is running full steam, they think they're somebody, and they think they're their body or their thoughts or their mind. We got to get rid of the thoughts. We have to figure out how to get rid of the thoughts. And how do we do that? We have to remove the aggravators. We have to take away what's stimulating our cycles of thought. Physically, mentally, taking in externally, everything. We have to facilitate a state of peace always in everything we do. If we're doing anything that is taking us out of a state of peace, we need to correct that. Some things you can't control when you go out into the world. We need to focus on staying present. That's why every other time when we can control, or the illusion of control, what kind of music we're listening to, what we're looking at. If we're scrolling on social media, guess what? Social media is going to aggravate you. It's gonna. If anything that makes you think it's gonna put you in the ego, and it's gonna keep you in lower perspectives, and it's gonna keep us in the cycles of suffering. How do we escape the cycles of suffering? Presence and purification, calming the mind, getting in facilitating a state of peace, removing the aggravators. It's all just nature running off, baby. Empty your mind. Empty your mind. Stay present. Let it all go. Stand in the center of the circle. I'm talking to myself. And if you need this reminder too, it's for you, my friends. Don't be afraid to constantly remind yourself, because this world is very strong. I am God's eternal love pouring forth. Namaste.